Hi there. Welcome into the OUA basketball show. My name's Griffin Porter. It's been a while. Thank you guys so much for having so much patience on this last episode. I know it's been a couple weeks since the OUA finals and then the U Sports Final 8, but boy oh boy, what a fantastic couple of tournaments. I promise this episode is coming a little late for a good reason. We had great guests, plural, I may have given it away. A one-of-a-kind interview with two fantastic people, so I'm not going to waste any more time. I'll see you again at the end of the interview, but for now I'm just going to throw it over to Griffin on a different day wearing a hat. All right, and for the last episode of the season, we had to do it big. We had to bring on some guests who have picked up some extra jewelry in the last couple of weeks. It's two national champions, an OUA champion as well, and someone who has OUA championships, Callie Pockernick and Connor Vreeken, both of the Carleton Ravens, your national champions. Thank you guys so much for coming on the OUA basketball show.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah, Callie, welcome back. I'm going to start with you just because returning guest privileges. Sorry, Connor. She's a friend of the show. Got a little list here of things that have happened to you since the last time we talked. You've won two championships, two championship MVPs, an OUA first-time All-Star, a U Sports Final 8 All-Star, a U Sports second-team All-Canadian, two U Sports Players of the Week, and an OUA Player of the Week. Are you exhausted? Because I got exhausted just reading all that.
Just a little bit.
But, yeah, so since we talked, and since there was an episode of the OUA basketball show, we had our provincial championships. Callie, you won that. Connor, you guys put up a great fight against the University of Ottawa, and we'll get to that. And then we had the national championships as well, which both of you guys won. Callie, you won your first provincial championship, your first national championship. How are you feeling right now?
I'm still pinching myself every morning. It's crazy to have experienced, and I mean, our team is super excited about it, and yeah, it's just surreal.
Yeah, one of the best runs that I've certainly seen in my time watching U Sports basketball. But we got to get to our other guest as well, Connor Vreeken. It's great to have you on the show. This is our first team member of the Carleton men's team. We had a couple of great guests who cover you guys. We had the great Mark Colley, the great Corey Brankin, but this is our first time getting that team point of view, and we're going to talk about the national championship. Don't you worry. I'll get to the fun stuff, but I want to go back a bit to a regular season weekend where you guys lost two games in a row, and the whispers started to come in because there's been a lot of roster turnover, and people sort of started to wonder, is there a crack in the armor? Can the Giants be caught? Did you guys even hear that? Was that something?
We definitely heard about all the stuff that was being said about us this year, it wasn't just after that weekend where we lost two in a row, but every single time we had a game that wasn't like a stellar performance. So it was, these Ravens are done, they're not going to be able to win again. But I think that really just motivated us to kind of silence some people, so it was a good thing in the long run.
Yeah. So do you use that or do you ignore it? Like, do you let it fuel you?
I mean, I think it depends on the person, but personally, I like hearing that stuff because it gives me a reason to get mad at certain people. And I mean, if I see them in person, am I going to be mad at them? No. But it's nice to just make up a little bit of a narrative in your head and use that to fuel you.
Yeah, well, totally. Don't watch old episodes of the show. I always was a believer. No, I'm kidding. I had to report on the storylines that were happening. But once playoffs come around, we know it's a different beast. And you guys have both been through some adversity this year, of course, even though you both ended up national champions. So I want to talk about your two phenomenal coaches a bit and how they both handle, like, when the going gets tough. Callie, you guys had to beat the incredible Queen's Gales 3 different times this year, and you pulled it off. And Connor, you guys had that really tough crowd in Halifax. So, Callie, let's go back to you for a bit. What was Coach Sinclair like when she was prepping you guys to go up against a team that had only lost one game all year? It was to you, but they had only lost once all year, and you had to play them in championship atmospheres twice.
In those situations, Danny is just kind of trying to prepare us in a way like no other. Every practice we consider super important, and every game is super important. So going into those games, nothing was a surprise because we've been preparing for those situations in practice and other games. So she just kept it the same and kept it super passionate.
Yeah, and speaking of super passionate, I think that would be a good way to describe Taffy Charles as well. I never had the pleasure of meeting Coach Sinclair. She joined the school after I left, but I did have the pleasure of covering Coach Charles. Connor, what was his demeanor like throughout the entire season, like through the ups and downs?
I mean, Taff wears his heart on his sleeve, and I love that about him. So we know how much he cares about winning, and we know that he wants us to be competitors and be winners. So you win or lose, there's never a good game, and there's always stuff that we got to build on. And I think that's part of the reason why he's probably the best coach. Well, in my opinion, the best coach in the country, regardless of what any voters say.
Yes, well, I certainly think that the proof is in the pudding there, with all due respect to the many great coaches across Canada, because there's a lot of them. We'll stick with Nationals, Connor. I can't believe I've gone this far. This might be like journalistic malpractice. You just played maybe the best game in Canadian university history. That incredible crowd in Halifax. You guys were not only the evil empire that Carleton is every year, but you were playing against one of the home teams. What was that like? Just before we get into the specifics, what was that atmosphere like to play in that game? Looking back on it a couple days later,
it's pretty crazy. We've had the opportunity to play home teams every single nationals, with the exception of the one that was in Ottawa. I think back to last year, and I was telling my parents "Oh man, 2,000 people all screaming at once. That was loud." You make that 9, 10,000, whatever it was, and boy, man, it was electric in there. And every single time we scored, it got real quiet, which made it even more fun.
Yeah, of course you guys have been there before. That's no headline, but did it feel different? Could you feel that crowd on a different level?
I mean, when you're on the court, you just kind of try to tune it all out. So it was more something I noticed watching the recording on YouTube. But in the moment, you just hear it's loud. You don't really hear what people are saying to it.
For sure. And I got to talk about your old teammate, your good friend, Aiden Warnholtz, a little bit. He led you guys, the Cali Pockernick of the men's team, some are saying. He led you guys. Of course, it was a team effort, but he had that incredible shot that's going to go down in U Sports history at the end of regulation and throughout the entire tournament. And throughout the entire season, what can you say about what Aiden did for your team this year?
I mean, I've been playing with Aiden for the last 7 years. We started playing together in high school.
Exactly.
So I've always known the caliber of player that he is, and I've seen him hit big shots in big moments before. I think it's the perfect way to cap off his career. I think he should have been OUA Player of the Year and probably U Sports MVP. Once again, there's some politics, there's some voting behind that, but the best player I've probably ever played with in terms of just setting people up and being able to score them too. It's incredible.
Yeah, and I could list off a lot of very good players that you have played with, so that is high praise, and I think very well deserved. Callie, we're going to take it back to you. I've never done 2 guests at once before. I'm trying to keep everyone in the action.
Yeah, no worries.
Hope you're not getting bored over there. I just want to talk about, you guys won the OUA championship, and it's such a quick turnaround between OUA and Nationals. I was hoping to get you on the show between OUA and Nationals, and then I was like, I don't even have time to do my own episode. It's already starting. So how much did that build confidence for you guys, knowing that you had that championship experience, and how did that impact your experience at Nationals?
Honestly, we tried not to think much about it at that point. We won, but we still haven't really proved anything. So, yeah, it gave us a little bit of momentum, but we were just focusing on Nationals more so.
Right. So even though you took down Queens and you had that great banner, which is obviously a great experience. No satisfaction.
No satisfaction.
I guess coming in as the number 1 seed, there's an expectation there. Connor, I'm going to go back to you. There's no flow to this interview whatsoever. You obviously, I talked about Aiden in my last question. You had some fantastic games in the finals. I loved seeing get to the rim. Of course, we all know one of the best 3-point shooters in the country, but showing off that extra level to the game. How obviously you guys have played together for a long time, but with this team, when you're on a team with as much talent as you are, is it ever difficult to find the balance between getting your shots and making sure that everyone else stays involved? Like, you got to get Grant involved as well.
Yeah, I kind of leave that up to Taft more with the plays that he's calling. I think that the perfect thing about that finals was, if you look at the distribution of the scoring, there was like 5 guys with 20 points or something like that. So before the tournament, Taft had said to us, he's like, come on guys, like, when are you guys all going to play well at the same time? When are you guys all going to perform? And if you look at the box scores over the season, that kind of did happen where guys would have kind of like their night, which isn't something that hasn't happened before, but I just think that we kind of pulled it all together, and as a group, so many guys played well in that national championship game. That's what makes it so special.
Yes, absolutely. And of course, I think the perfect way to end history, both of you were big parts of history. The first time since 1985 that the same school won both the men's and women's national basketball championships, and the games were being played at the exact same time, which was terrible for me trying to watch both. I kept having to go back and forth. The women's game was like 5 minutes ahead of the men's game, so that was nice. But how, of course, both teams are full of friends, and you guys practice together and do lots of things together, so there's a lot of interest in the other team. How did you both find out? Callie, were you guys able to go watch like the overtimes? Connor, when did you find out that the women had also won?
For us, so we did our, little celebration at the end of the game, and then right away we're all like, oh my god, the men's game is still going on, we're seeing all these headlines, blah blah blah. So we actually, all of us stood on the court in a little circle and just watched on someone's phone for the last 10 minutes I don't even know how long we watched it for, but we were screaming in that gym until the last buzzer. It was actually really fun.
That sounds like a great experience.
Yeah, I mean, I saw a video of their team around the phone screaming and celebrating for us, which is pretty special. It shows how kind of close the two teams are. We found out in the medal, when we were getting the medals, someone said oh, the women's team won. Oh, the women's team won. Everyone was like, oh my god, no way. We really pulled this off. So it's a pretty special moment for Carleton basketball for sure.
Yeah, and just before I let you go, we got to look forward to next year. Callie, would you pick the Carleton men's team to win the national championship next year?
I would, for sure.
And Connor, would you pick the Carleton women's team to win the national championship next year?
Callie leading that team, I don't know if they have a shot, but no, I like their chances. I'm really hoping they can go back.
All right, that sounds like a recipe for a one-on-one game in the future. Guys, thank you so much both for coming. Congratulations. You've done the whole Carleton community proud. You made U Sports history, and you came on the OUA basketball show. So you'll have to rank those 3 things on your own. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you again to our 2 national champions, Callie Pockernick and Connor Vrieken, for coming on the show. Callie, of course, as you all know, has been on the show a couple times this year, so very grateful to her for making all that time, and Connor as well, of course, those 2 taking time out of their national championship celebrations to take the time to talk to little old me and our little old show. So I'm very grateful for that. And speaking of being grateful, I'm grateful to all of you. This is, of course, our last show of the season. It's been an absolute blast making this every week. I'm so thankful to all you guys for tuning in. The OUA basketball community, I think, is just one of the best in the entire country. Getting to talk to all these players and coaches and writers has been fantastic. I've loved doing this show with you guys and for you guys. It's been a real privilege. So yeah, please, if you're a student, have a great final exam period and then a great summer break. And if you're not a student, enjoy the warmer weather and enjoy the fact that you don't have to do final exams. It's been an absolute blast. I certainly hope we'll be back in September because I like doing this show, and I think I think you all like it too. I hope so. Anyway, and one more person to thank, of course, is Chris over at the OUA. A great person to work with. This is all his brainchild. He's the one who has the idea to keep churning out all this great content, and he's just fantastic to work with. So a big thank you to Chris at the OUA. So one last time, this is Griffin Porter signing off. A big congratulations to our provincial champions, the Ottawa GGs and the Carleton Ravens, and the national champions, both representing Ontario, the Carleton Ravens, both sides. So thank you again one last time for tuning in. My name's Griffin Porter. Have a great summer, and we'll see you in September.